Used throughout the world, Bedmax is the UK's foremost manufacturer of tailor-made horse shavings. Bedmax is a very high-quality bedding made from British pine, and this bedding provides a healthy, dust-free, stable environment, combating common health and welfare issues associated with the stabled horse. Bedmax is designed to maximise cushioning for joints, minimise moisture that can damage hooves, and provides maximum comfort and support. For more information, go to bedmaxshavings.com. Welcome to Podmas on the EquiRatings Eventing podcast, where this Christmas we will be bringing you a new episode every single day in the build-up to the big day. So here we go. Let's crack on with today's show. Welcome to the EquiRatings Eventing podcast and a Nicole Met show, very kindly supported by Bedmax. It is our last show of Nicole Met in 2021. And listeners, I don't know if I've been as happy about a guest this year. I mean, we've had some absolute crackers, but today's guest, this has been a show that I have been angling for years, and it is finally happening. Sam Watson, welcome to the hot seat.
God, it's very strange, Nicole. I have rebelled against this. One, I feel like I have nothing to offer, but two, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, we're usually on a fairly equal level when it comes to the podcast. But yeah, I'm in the chair now. I'm looking forward to it, I suppose.
And I have basically, listeners, told Sam nothing about what we're going to talk about. So he is going into this completely blind. I did tell him that a measure of when Nicole Met is if I can make somebody cry. It's obviously not, but, you know, scare tactics all the way. Okay, he's got his head in his hands, listeners. If you could see him now, he looks like he would very happily disappear for an early Christmas lunch. Right, let's just dive in. So one thing that I find fascinating, and I'm sure our listeners have thought it a time or two, how on earth do you manage to juggle eventing at the very top level, championship level, the Olympic Games, the World Championships, everything like that, along with EquiRatings? Because our listeners will obviously have heard you so much over the last few years, but how on earth do you do all of that?
Now I manage to do it well because I have amazing people around me. So obviously Sparks with the horses and Dearman, the entire EquiRatings team from that side, and also very understanding to let me do my thing. Like it is hard I know there are times when Dearman is like, oh, Sam is just, he can't make this meeting and all he's doing is riding a horse, you know, like it would be so convenient if he could be here. I mean, I don't think he even thinks that, but I kind of initially would worry thinking I should be doing more, but you know, mornings, it's very hard to get me in the mornings from an EquiRatings point of view. And then the role completely changes in that Sparks, I could look out the window and she's doing a phenomenal amount of work out there and things that, you know, could just do with trying to load a horse or do something where an extra pair of hands would be so useful. And I'm on a call with someone halfway across the world and things like that. So I managed to do it well. It was difficult to start with when it was just me and Dee with EquiRatings, late nights. And I could be writing code at 2 a.m, somewhere deep in an Excel file, writing a macro and getting lost and being stressed as to how to fix it because there was a bug or something. And that was hard. That took its toll, I think. But definitely COVID changed everything because I'm a dad as well. And I'm really proud to be a dad. And I actually, even better than being a good dad, I want to be, my number one priority is to be a good husband. Because I think that is my goal. I really want Sparks to be happy, and I wanted to look after her the most. And then the kids are secondary, because I think that's a good place for kids to know that they are not the most important thing in the world. They're the second most. I mean, I obviously love them to bits, but I also see my role as to kind of help them through life as well.
The two kind of go hand in hand though, because a happy Sparks, happy wife, happy, you know, family setup actually makes a big impact on their life as well. So they, you know, you could put them first in every situation, and poor old Sparks, you know, and it all kind of inflects into each other, doesn't it? You just mentioned there some words that were literally like a different language to me. I mean, I've been around the EquiRatings team for a number of years now, and like the code, the macro, the micro, the bugs, I don't know. Just kind of give us an insight into, because your role in EquiRatings has changed a bit as the team has got bigger and expanded. How did it start? Like, how was sort of your involvement when it started, and how is it now?
I still get to be quite creative in that. Like I love a spreadsheet full of numbers, and I will always do the interrogating of data in Excel and using pivot tables. But in the old days, actually more using macros, which is a way of kind of manipulating, because you want to create ratings. You want to say, oh, well, what if we look at everything that these horses have done in their last 6 runs before they come into this competition, and try and give them some sort of rating, and then be able to rate the quality of the competition, and then be able to look at the clear rate in that competition. And, so you're kind of doing lots of different iterations, asking lots of different questions, and you end up bringing in an awful lot of data just into one competition. So that's difficult to do in Excel at face value. It would be easier if I was better, because there's better kind of data analysis languages and programs out there that the likes of Sean Murray, who's now our lead data scientist, would use. But I get to combine, and I guess this is really the essence of is combining the intuition with a kind of an adequate and maybe okay, fairly good is as far as I would go, understanding of data science and data analysis. And we always try and hire better people in terms of, better in the data science than what I would have been from what I learned in university. So I get to think a lot, which I kind of do on the horse when I'm on the horses. I'd have got nothing done. I'm the thinker. And I think even in terms of, that's where Sparks has unbelievable, her motto in life is just get done. Let's get it done. There's so many jobs to do. And she'd be like, I don't want to sit here and actually think about how many jobs we have to do. I want to get them done. I want to start getting things done off the list. And Derm got EquiRatings going as well. He was like, well, we just got to stop thinking about new things. Let's just get people using this one. So I have a load of very good doers and people that make things happen. And I get to still be a bit creative and think about where the direction things could go in.
Do you think that, though, is what makes you and Spark such a good team, and likewise you and Dee such a good team, of actually you kind of need that dynamic, don't you, of somebody that will get stuff done, but actually, you also need to be able to take stock of the situation and kind of go, right, could we do it better? How could we improve this? Or what are we missing? And you can't always do that when you're in the thick of it. But the two things combined make it a really powerful force.
Yeah, we're never really stepping on each other's toes, which is good. There aren't many jobs where we're both kind of putting our hands up, kind of, oh, I'd like to do that. I think when Sparks and I, if there was a young horse came into the yard and we both wanted it to go to Le Lion and we both wanted to ride at Le Lion, then there's a little bit of a conflict, isn't there? Whereas we don't have that. We want to do our roles and they're different. They complement each other. But I mean, that is one part of it. But the other part is, I think that the human side is just respect, always like never wanting to put yourself first. And that can sometimes be I'm not saying I'm like that, but definitely Derm and Sparks are amazing people like that in terms of not being selfish, not wanting to take the limelight. I try not to do that, but I probably have a natural, I think when you compete in sport and things like that, I mean, there is a little bit of a attention seeker in you. I try and keep it in check, and I try and it is important to me that Sparks is number one. It is important to me that Derm feels he has the support there, and he knows that he also is raising a family and has a life and things like that. And so we try and divvy up the trips. I think I did about 5 countries in 5 days a couple of weeks ago, to do trips. So I try and do my little shift when I have time, because he's making sure that I can get to Olympic Games and do all that as well. So yeah, respect and for each other, and then the different skill sets. It makes it all work.
It really does. Let me ask you about the relationship with Dee, because we've heard it from his side of things. I know, listeners, we did a Knowing Me, Knowing You with Dum. And if you are new to the EquiRatings eventing podcast, Dum Byrne is Sam's co-director, co-founder of EquiRatings, but your best friend from school. So take us back to you meeting him for the very first time, because I think you were 11, was that right?
Yeah, we would have been 11, 12, starting boarding school. And that's an important thing in my story as well, is I have the right blend of opportunity to get a good education and to be able to go to university. Not everyone has the opportunity to do 3 levels of education. I had that opportunity, and then dad was probably, or certainly dairy farming was struggling and stuff like that. So there was probably then not any kind of money just lying around that made life easy enough for me to do nothing and to kind of have a charmed life. But I definitely had opportunity. So I'm very lucky. I always think life is a game of poker. I was dealt Jack 10 suited. It was a good hand with a lot of opportunities. Not a made hand, but it's a very good hand. So that's just the introduction to going to a good school. I'm good as inverted commas, isn't it? But going to a boarding school and meeting Diarm there, we didn't instantly gel by any means. As in, like, he was a big football mad Tullamore country lad, and I was like a little posh boy that liked playing. I actually played cricket in the summer. That's not many people in Ireland play that game now. So, but then, and really, we were a trio, really, certainly in university when we were living together. Dermot Kilroy was Diarm's best friend growing up from the same town, and he had a very similar mind to mine. So we did all of the same subjects. We did maths, applied maths, physics, and I would have put nothing down on my university application form if it wasn't for Dermot Kilroy, who got me to go there, got me to go to college. I put down one course, which was management science and information systems, just because it ticked all the same boxes. Like, I loved easiness. Like, I took up golf in my last year of school because everyone started studying really hard, and I couldn't do that. I'm a terrible studier. I've never read a book really from cover to cover. I think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, maybe something like that. But like, even for my English, I would just steal notes and stuff like that. I couldn't, and read synopsis and things like that. Like, I couldn't. I love methodical kind of approach to learning things, but I just can't read and study. I'm probably better now because I have a real appetite for learning now. I'd say that's, I'd read more about training horses and doing all that sort of stuff. But Dad tried to get me to read books about training horses when I was young, and I wouldn't do it. But then, after school, Diarm and I went to college, and again, the same college. And that's where we definitely grew a lot closer. And then we had kind of our first-hand experience of tragedy and kind of mental health tragedy with Dermot Kilroy, with the kind of common link between us. He passed away in our 3rd year of university. So we ended up living together, kind of moving out of that house, moving into an apartment together. That really bonded us. It was just the two of us then. We'd been through a big life-changing event, I guess, for 2 young 20-year-olds to lose a friend that way, and at that time, and that someone that close to us. So I think we were kind of bonded for life. But what I always really like and appreciate is that in those kind of 3-4 months before that happened, and we were living together under the same roof, there were 5 of us in that house, and Diarm and I stayed up until 3 a.m. playing darts, drinking wine together. Just because it was cheap. we had been drinking cans of something else, but wine was the best access. Well, that's what I would say, because it's cheap. Diarm would probably say it's because he has taste.
Be quite happy with wine. Maybe his wine level has just changed slightly.
Yeah, but we were definitely, connected as very good friends. Very different. Always appreciated that we were very different people, and we still do. That we think differently. We are different types of people, but there's a definite friendship and connection there, and that has now, that's how we are where we are, I think.
Do you think, obviously, a really, really tough time in your life, and kind of a time that I imagine has shaped your ethos on family, and something that's certainly shined through the last 15 minutes that we've been talking on this show, and I know, is something that, knowing you pretty well, you can see every single day. Do you think that was a real one of those kind of turning points in your life?
That time in college was coincided with the time when you start thinking about your first job and where you're going to go. And I was at the same crossroads that I'd been leaving school, going, do I go with horses or do I go with probably investment banks, where the things that I got offered a very good job where I could be earning pretty close to what I'm even earning now. Very, when it coming out of college, because the grades were good and the understanding of numbers was good, so that opened a lot of doors. And Derm rather than Derm, it's very confusing, isn't it, when there was a Dermot and a Dermot? But Derm was a numbers guy similar to me, and went to London for those job interviews, and was like, God, I'm not sure if that's if basically earning huge sums of money but possibly not feeling fulfilled, and not kind of ticking the purpose box, and sort of wondering why, what would this money do, what would this job do. Now some you can get a kick out of it. Like I'm not against earning a lot of money or making a lot of money, and I would enjoy the journey of building a big company for reasons, because we're adding value to people, because we're bringing something to equestrian sports that they've never had before. If we can bring games, if we can bring fan engagement, if we can bring analytics to performance managers, if we can bring insights to the people who govern the sport, if we can bring stuff, and that creates a big successful company, which it has created a successful company that is, it is doing very well. And we love it, and we're very proud of EquiRatings and what it's done so far. And I do think that the growth is still there, but we're not out to just rob people of money or to just make loads of money, and pay our staff as little as possible and charge our clients as much as possible. We're not like that at all. We're trying to establish long-term relationships, and we want everybody to feel, if they're a client, that we're genuinely adding value to them, and if they work for us, that they can believe in what they're doing, and they can get a lot of satisfaction at what they're doing.
What about, the difference between eventing and investment banking? Like they're polar opposites in that respect. So you obviously went with the eventing route. At that point, did you go back home to Ballybolger, or did you travel and start your career traveling?
That was my career as a traveler. That was I would have done for 6 years. I would pack up. I'd always do the winters in Ireland. The worst place. Some people go to Florida or Spain for the winter to do the sunshine tour. I always did winter in Ireland at Ballybolger. But in February, I would load up, back then, 2 lorries, and we'd drive over. And, anywhere from, I think my first season, maybe only 3 horses I took over. So I think it was 1 lorry and 3 horses when I first went over. And then it would have been, 6 or 8 horses, I think, one year we took over to England, based in various yards. It was with Laura Collett at one point, was with lots of people who looked after us and helped us to get going. And obviously that's where I met Sparks in 2008, which is the same year that I graduated from Trinity, from university. And at the end of that year, I was flirting like mad with her.
Can we have the story again? Can we have the story? Because listeners, if you have not heard the story of how Sam and Sparks met, how their sort of massive love story started, you will want to hear it. And if you have heard it, you're probably like me, very happy to hear it again.
Well, I always think it started like a couple of weeks earlier than it did, because I was sure she was looking in my direction at, I think it was South of England event, in a kind of crowded room with the scoreboards back in the day when we weren't all looking at our phones for the scores, and scores were still written on paper. We were up there and I was like, oh, there's a hot girl over there. I think that's Pippa's groom, whatever. And I was sure she was looking in my direction, but she does not remember it all. So she was clearly looking at someone else or looking at something else. But then for me, I thought we had, I was like, I definitely,
there was a connection.
Yeah. I'd noticed her anyway. So then it was a 2-week trip to France. I went to Le Lion d'Angers and Pau back to back, and myself and Dad took our old dingy Mercedes lorry that didn't go very fast, and was not like, Sparks kind of refers to it as the love bus, because that is where we first sort of spent time together.
Okay. That's all we need to know. That's all we need to know.
Dad was great. That particularly going to Pau, because so then there was loads of flirting in Lyon. So I would rock up I would have my bike, and for some reason doesn't even though I was in my 20s, you start acting like a kind of 12-year-old kid again, like on your bike, stand up, going really fast, pulling a bit of a skid, trying to be, anyway, that's just boys. I've kind of became 10 years younger. And I kept rocking around to Team GB going like, oh, is Sparks about? And where's she? And anyway, and so all the British grooms at that point in time knew exactly what my intentions were. And there was flirting going on, but it did take, if we didn't have the second week, it was Poe before, we could actually progress to like having a meal together and, actually having almost like a date. The first weekend of Leon was just flirting.
When was the incident with the tree?
That was Poe.
So Lilian had gone okay. Then you get to Poe.
Yeah.
And you're so blinded by love that you.
I was so blinded and distracted that, Pierre Michelet had a A, B, C, D, E, if not F, but it was the first time I think I'd seen an E as part of a combination at the first water, fence 7 or 8. I jumped that and then I went straight into a tree after jumping it. So that was my, and that is the only long format 4 or 5 star in my career that I have not completed. So that was back in 2008. Yeah, a long time ago. So yes, blinded by love, hit the tree, half concussed, and it gave me a bit more confidence actually. That evening I was like, right, if I'm not leaving here with my first 5-star completion under my belt, I am leaving here with a love interest.
What did your dad think of the whole situation? Because you and your dad gone off in the lorry, and you just dump him. He's gone.
Yeah, I made him go off and sleep in a hotel. He didn't make. He was good. He could read the lie that he was like, okay, my son in his 20s, because he would have been far worse than I was. I'd say, like
he probably young. Thought, like, actually, he struck gold here. He is on to a good one. Like, go for it.
She saw Bushman at the time going to we were clipping him before the first trot up, and people were going down to the trot up, and Dad was still clipping him. Bushman, poor George. So Sparks knew he needed help as well. So we were starting to get a bit of help.
It is so clear how much family means and Sparks means to you, and the impact she's had in terms of both your eventing career and EquiRatings is enormous. Like, are you able to put it into words as to how much she means in that respect?
It's hard to put into words, that kind of stuff, without being. Everybody loves the person in their life as well, and I'm always conscious of. I'm probably less gushing on social. I don't really put anything on social media anymore. I used to always put up posts and things like that when it was birthdays and anniversaries and things like that. And I just, as I say, she is number one for me, and that's important. And I think it comes from probably my mum's side of the family as well. That looking after your loved ones is massive, and you can. Whether you make a small impact on a lot of people's lives, or you make a huge impact on a small number of people's lives, or even possibly only one person's life, it's all the same. It's just about trying to make that to be a kind of a positive person in someone's life. But Sparks for me is I would be lost without her. I mean, that's my biggest worry is like, what would I mean, it's a morbid thing to think about, but I don't want her to feel under pressure for it, but I don't think I wouldn't event without her, because it's as much about being able to have the little, sometimes it's only a 30-second debrief after every horse every morning. But we just do everything together, and we spend all our time together on a daily basis and at the shows. And I just love it. And I just love her. I just love being with her and sharing those moments. I can do all my stupid, terrible impressions in the lorry when I'm driving to a show with her. I can sing badly. I can be overweight or underweight, and she doesn't mind. It's just she's everything. I can, and I hope that she enjoys the journey as much, which I believe she does. Like those horses mean so much to her as well, and she's so proud when the horses do well, and I guess when I do well as well. it is our kind of joint journey in life. And that's far more than I don't dream about winning badminton, but I do love and smile and even dream. I mean, I can't wait to hopefully go back to badminton next season, but I'm as excited about the first 5 minutes when you leave the yard. The lorry has been packed. You're getting into the truck. You have all the horse passports are there beside you, and you're off and you're driving off, and Sparks is excited and I'm excited. And the next hour that we will spend together on our way to the boat, we'll both be excited and looking forward to badminton. And that time, it's those moments with each other that make it all very special.
It's funny actually, because you've just answered my next question there. Because I was going to say, what is it about eventing? Is it the training? Is it the competition? Is it riding for Team Ireland? Like, what is it that makes you tick? But actually, it's the journey and the people that are on that journey with you.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, the other things you've mentioned are all important as well, and I enjoy them as well. I love getting out of when I first started. I mean, your mindset changes. Going up to. In the build up to London 2012, there was definitely an element about Sam Watson becoming an Olympian, like that would be amazing. And that was selfish, but that's fine. I mean, a lot of, it's fine to be selfish. It's fine to have aspirations for yourself and to achieve things that are just kind of like positions or outcomes, to win this or to become that. But that's all gone now. I don't have any kind of aspirations like that anymore. I want to have a positive impact on my family, my work colleagues, and teammates, and my horses. So the horses really kind of moved from, like, obviously I've always loved horses and always loved working with horses, and they are amazing. Sort of, there's so much they have so much empathy for some reason. They really sort of sense your mood and can be very comforting. I think we've all probably, when we felt a little bit low, ended up at some point finding ourselves stood in a stable and finding a lot of comfort there with your sort of equine soulmate. So I've had a few of those moments. So I've always loved working with horses, but there was always an element that these horses will help me achieve what I want to achieve. And then that all changed really after London, because in 2012, not only did I not go to the London Olympics, I also, which was a disappointment, but then at the end of the year, we got married and we were expecting our first child. And in 2013, we had our first child, and life that just made me, I think that's the happiest turning point in my life. And that's probably when I realized much more that, God, this is who I want to be. There's a great comfort in that, going like, do you have to go and be an entrepreneur or an Olympian, or like, do you have to do and achieve something? I think I felt that as a younger person. And then it was like, no, it's okay if you just want to be a husband and a dad and make someone at home feel really special, or two little boys running around you that they think you're great, and you treat them well and you do the best for them. That's okay. And I've loved that ever since. And then that was the point when I was like, okay, well, what can I, from a horse point of view, I love working with these horses and training these horses. And it switched, particularly when Arda Highlight came along, which wasn't until kind of 2016, 2017, when I fluffed another Olympics and not made Rio. And I got the opportunity to ride Arda Highlight again, or Ben, as we call him. And that was very much, I said, okay, well, we'll give this a go and we'll see what he can do. We'll try and get Ben as far as Ben can go, because we believe in him. We believe there's something in there. He's a bit confused and angry and confused with life at times, but we believe that he's got great ability in there. Let's try and get it out of him. And now that's how I approach all the horses. And I love it, because I feel like a coach rather than a competitor. And I'm trying to look after them physically, mentally, and basically coach them through life.
Has that made you a better competitor?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to be in equestrian sport, and I think I've said this on a podcast or two before. If we were running the 100 meters, or if we were weightlifting, you would need to push the boundaries of mental and physical pain. You would have to push yourself into a territory that your brain is telling you not to go there because it's too painful. because you have to push your body so far. We don't do that as equestrian athletes. Our job, I fully believe that I'm more effective as a coach than I am thinking of myself as a competitor. Yes, I need to be in the right place. I mean, I really work on my personal fitness, so I'm not turning into a sack of potatoes at the 10th minute on a cross country course, and I'm still able to be very fresh mentally and physically to help the horse through it. But absolutely, I think if I can remain calm, almost feel like I'm on the sidelines and just coaching this horse through this dressage test, show jumping around cross country course, I think it helps.
I find that absolutely fascinating. So because obviously you mentioned London, massively disappointing. Rio didn't happen either. Then there was the World Equestrian Games in 2018, which was your third World Championships. We always pull your leg and joke. Sam's talking about his silver medal again and, everything else. But actually, we can't underestimate how, it is a really big deal. Did that feel like some of those previous championship performances, because there had been some tough world championships, you'd had some close calls going to an Olympics? Did that feel like it was all worth it at that point in terms of a championship experience? What does that mean, that medal?
It opens doors in the same way that the Olympics opens doors, in that it makes some things easier. It's you can't say it's not a positive, but it was definitely not a moment where I thought, all of the hard work and effort is now worth it or anything like that. It was nothing like that. And it was also, I also refrain a little bit from kind of saying like, oh, everything was just perfect that day. I just did everything. I was another level or something like that. No, I mean, I did every bit as average a dressage test as I have done for many, unfortunately, kind of all too often. But on horses who, Ben was given back to us. I mean, I bought him over the phone for a small amount of money. I mean, he was a very talented horse. He still remains probably the most talented horse I've ever ridden, but not huge movement. Quite a tricky jumper in a way, because he gets quite stressed and panicky. So I've never ridden I've never ridden an expensive horse, that one that's cost an awful lot of money at all. And they're all extraordinary in their own ways in terms of their heart and their desire to do what they do. Flamenco is to have come from his background. He's just an extraordinary horse who kind of defies his DNA, but he is, again, he in many ways, he's very, very talented, different to Arda Highlight. But so when I say that, my dressage test was average, I don't think I did a terribly bad job, but it certainly wasn't an extraordinary job. The cross country, I was very comfortable with and was in a comfort zone, and it was good. I was in the right place at the right time and kept his energy in the right place. I did a good job there. And the show jumping was a result of being trained by good people, and Ian Fearon was a massive part. He had to put me together kind of mentally as well, because I'd struggled with show jumping simply because I'd never done much training in it, or knew what show jumping was about. So he taught me, he kind of helped me there, and then also gave me confidence there. And then when I went in the ring and just did what I did, I didn't ride any better that day than I would have ridden at Chatsworth early that year, or Le Moulin earlier that, like even Le Moulin, I had 2 down on him. He drifted in that combination. He drifted in the combination at WEG. I hit the upright with my leg, and sometimes it comes off and sometimes it doesn't. I think I did a really good job at the European Championships the following year, and Flamenco would have been 5th individually if I had turned quicker in the water. I didn't even present him to that parrot in the water. I just took too much time. It was a split second thing. I don't think I particularly did anything wrong. I don't take massive chances. I'm quite as I said, I've completed nearly since 2008, I've completed every long format I've done at 4 and 5 star level, because I like to be secure and safe and kind of put a score on the board. And I felt if I whipped in too early, I was just taking a chance. And I tried to turn. I think I thought I could circle even. In the split second, my concentration was done. It cost me. But I don't think I was. I'm just kind of trying to put WEG into words. Really, is do I think it was I think that the team medal, we had great horses and good riders. All the good riders that we still have. Sarah Ennis is still a top rider. but the horse she has now is probably, in my opinion, is not as good as the horse she had back at WEG in 2018. So we had the good horses, the good riders, really good management, and really good training. And Ireland has always had good trainers, and Sally's always put a load of support around us, from physios to nutritionists to personal fitness to everything. She tries to cover every single base and pushes us on everything to make sure that we're covering all those bases. And so that means we didn't really have a weakness, and so we won a medal.
Going on from the World Games, Olympics in Tokyo, we obviously spoke to you post Tokyo, and actually, listeners, it is well worth going back to listen to a couple of shows there. One, the post-WEG debrief with Sam Tells All from 2018, which still is one of my favourite shows I think we've ever done. I know I say that a lot, listeners, but I genuinely do mean it. Then there was the Equilume show post-Tokyo, of kind of looking back at the games and the different games, and being able to kind of, you've been to an Olympics. That is something that is massively, massively recognised in the world as a whole. It's something that's on a level playing field with lots of other sports as well. What about what next in eventing? Because obviously the EquiRatings journey is growing, getting bigger, more exciting in that respect. What about the eventing journey? Paris 2024?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to, like, I'm in a good space. I've been in bad places. I have to. I mean, I'll be honest and admit it. I mean, I know you want me to cry on the show. That's not going to happen.
I genuinely don't want you to cry. Like, that is a joke.
No, I know. No, I'm not going to do that. But I did cry in 2021. Like, that's I can't remember the last time I did. But I mean, obviously we've had a tough year with Tiggy and Tiggy Hancock and the Olympics of, stress. Is it going ahead? Is it not going ahead? Can I was sort of between two things as well, like where we compete. It's not really my call. That the horse wasn't even my horse, and I didn't really have a say as to whether we were in the UK or in Ireland and all that kind of stuff. And you just felt like the whole. And I think I was like, I've run a marathon this year, and I'm not a runner. So I had to get myself
literally, yeah.
Yeah. So I had to get myself into shape, and so when you're pushing your body to lose weight, to be fit, to I've kind of pushed myself, but I've loved it now. So all I'm saying is that I probably hit a low point in terms of stress, and and then that tells you, you could have asked me at some point this year, and I said, God, I feel like I'm lost. I feel like I have no purpose. I don't know what I'm doing. That's all just because I burned myself out temporarily. And I feel really good now because having, I've had a nice end to the season. I had a real lovely trip doing Aachen and Avanche with Talisman, Talisman is my mum and Sparks own him. And I mean, he's a horse we couldn't give away as a 6-year-old. I mean, we couldn't ride that's why I couldn't give him away, is because I wouldn't have been able to show him. He would have tried to buck me off. He was a psychopath. And so we've had to kind of bring him through. He's by puissance. He's out of a third. He just has so much aviation fuel going through his body. He thinks he's Usain Bolt. But we really enjoyed bringing him out of Ireland for the first time. And he gave me a great spin around Avanche, around the European Championships. And he's improving. His dressage and jumping are improving. And I love it. So I'm really excited about his future. And I'm really enjoying, the sport at the moment.
It's funny because actually earlier on in this show, you said equestrian athletes are different. You don't have to push yourself to the brink of, physical, mental limits. But actually everything you've just said, you did this year. You absolutely did. Honestly, Sam, I have enjoyed this so much. I've got a couple of quick questions that I'm going to fire at you. And you just need to give me, what immediately springs to mind, essentially. So what would you say is your greatest achievement?
I think having EquiRatings and eventing, okay, but having a family that is also having, it's multitasking. It's all three. This is an important point, I think, to make to people, is you have to remember. So for me in particular, I am definitely not anywhere close to being the best event rider, or the best Irish event rider, or anything like that. I'm not close to that, nor the best businessman or anything like that, nor the best husband or dad. But I'm the best at what I do. So in terms of being able to balance all that, And so that's it. And I think you can probably tell from this podcast that I'm not a massive achievement guy anyway. I'm not a massive medal guy. So it's just being where I am. I don't know. I actually find that a hard question to answer. I'm not massive on achievements.
It's amazing, actually. And one thing, listeners, that from knowing Sam and from what's come across on this show, you are so humble, Sam, in so much as your achievements and how hard you work and sort of the knowledge that you've put into the sport, to the business, but to your career, and the sacrifices to a degree you've had to make along the way as well. So I just think that's an important point to make on it. What is the greatest thing about the sport of eventing?
The cross country, like the fast pace and the footwork, the kind of unpredictability of it, the unnatural terrain, the fact that it comes up fast, those turns come up quick, and they're kind of unpredictable, and they're always a little bit different to what you'd see. When you sometimes see a show jumping course, you can see a variety of a line appear in one arena and it could appear at another arena a few weeks later as well. Like, there's only so many tricks in the book, so to speak. Whereas in eventing, because that cross country course is no two bits of terrain in the world from one venue to another are the same, and you can add so many different things. That's our USP. I think we need to remember. I think that's why people come with their family, their dogs, their picnics, and they go out and they watch that happening at pace to some of those fences. And when I think as well of what my kind of story as an event writer, I do think of it in terms of, like, I've jumped the Cottesmore Leap, I've jumped the Vicarage V, I've been into the lake at Badminton, I've been through Huntsman's Close. I like to think of those fences, and they're all cross country ones. I don't really think like, oh, I've got an 8 for a halt and a rainback. So no, yeah, that cross country.
Fair enough. What is the most difficult or the worst thing about the sport, or the hardest challenge of eventing?
You will never perfect it. The progress is endless, which I also love, because I would say to people, if you do anything, become addicted to progress. I was a lazy person who used to watch Deal or No Deal in the afternoon. I used to have time to sit on a sofa at 3:30 in the afternoon, or whenever Deal or No Deal is on, and watch it. I've always, and I even mentioned it when I was in school, I used to try and find a way to study as least as possible, or as little as possible. I was never a massive worker, but now I get through an awful lot in the day because I got addicted to doing a little bit more. So whether, the running is a good example, because I was a terrible runner. So I started off, I used to be out of breath after 3 minutes of running, but then it was 3.5 minutes, then it was 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. So become addicted to progress. It's very, very good for eventers, because you have that with your fitness, your jumping, your dressage. But it is, and it's very, very hard to get everything perfect on the one day. The day you nail your PB in the dressage, you then have to go and keep all the show jumps up, and you have to go clear inside the time as well. That is tough on you mentally, because there's so much disappointment and there's so much losing. You look at the likes of anyone, even Oliver Townend, who has won, who's world number one, but he loses way, way more than he wins. And that's hard.
Okay, horse of a lifetime. I think I know your answer to this one.
I have to go with the horse who put up with me and got me going. We bred him, but Bushman, George, he's my pal. He's not. I've mentioned probably the most talented horse that I've ridden. George doesn't get that. He wasn't a Ferrari or a Lamborghini in those ways, but he put up with me. He was an absolute saint. He took me to 4 badmintons, 2 World Games, 3 European Championships. He brought me around Burley when he was tired, when I was missing the bejesus out of him into big corners, and all those fences that I mentioned. I jumped the Cottesmore Leaps and the Vicarage. I jumped on him and not really knowing what I was doing aside from just kicking. What a saint and I would never have been able to do anything with the other horses without him.
Without him. Okay, we love that. And listeners, I'm just going to put a cheeky plug in there. If you want to hear more about Horsefire Bushman, we did do a Horse Heroes on him. We'll pop it in the show notes to this podcast if you want to go back and listen to it, because he is a really cool story. Okay, final question for you. What would be your life advice? What words do you live by?
The addicted to progress thing is good. I think And understand how that's the philosophy and the thing that drives me, and it's kind of like the purpose thing. Why would I do this? Because it's because I can be a little bit of a better dad. I can do a little bit more homework with the guys. I can read another story. It's only 2 minutes of just read 5 pages with them. Just do one little thing for Sparks that she's not expecting today. One little thing that is going to make her smile. One extra hug, one extra kiss out of the blue that she's not expecting. Just so she knows I'm here and I love her, and remind her, those little things, and just to be that little bit better. That's the purpose. You got to remember how life works is stress and recovery is growth. And I think this is a really important one, and it is only my opinion. So not everybody has to follow this, but it just might resonate with some people. And I think with the mental health conversation as well, if you imagine, because I think of life in terms of bar charts and things like that, but if you imagine stress as kind of a little line on a graph going up, going, oh, I'm getting stressed, and then you have to come down, which is you've got to take a few days off, you got to recover, you got to relax. And for me, that's the heartbeat of life. That's stress plus recovery, and that allows you to grow. And if you just flatline, if you just go, I'm just going to take the day off, and then you end up taking tomorrow off, and the day off, and the day off, after that. And I don't mean off, but kind of where I'm not really challenging myself, I'm not pushing myself, and I'm not having stress. That is good, like to be tired because you either went for a long run or you had a tough call with somebody because you were looking for a job. You were looking for your first piece of work and you had to sell yourself, which you hate doing. I hate selling myself. But if I do that and I push myself out of my comfort zone, that is good for me. And yes, I might have been really nervous about doing it. I might have been really nervous on the call. I might have thought for days, writing down on a piece of paper, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? But you did it and you pushed yourself to do it. And then you take a deep breath, recover. And then you're going to find, God, that's given me some confidence. Go and do it again because you've grown from that experience. So keep that heartbeat going. Don't be afraid of stress. Embrace it, but then recover. Allow yourself the time to recover from it as well. Don't push yourself every single day of your life because you will burn out. And we've all done that. Like I said on this podcast, I cried this year because I burned myself out. Don't do that. You will, of course, you'll do it at some point, but recognize that you've done it. Put your own oxygen mask on first. And then, you've recovered and then you can go again. But think of that stress recovery as that heartbeat of life. That is what I would call it. That's how you'll keep going the right direction.
What a way to finish. I actually love that advice. And I think it is something very, very relevant, listeners, that I hope all of you will take on too. Sam, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. Always a pleasure. But I have particularly enjoyed this one.
Well, Nicole, look, it is, and I know whenever you dropped the hints about it, I brushed it off to one side and said, no, sure, you don't need me on that show. It's kind of an honor, I think, to be asked to sit in the chair and take the questions. And I hope maybe for one person, hopefully for somebody, there's been something that has made a little bit of sense and just gives them a little bit of fuel to go on and light their fire a little bit. So thanks.
Oh, it has been a pleasure. And I am sure there are plenty of listeners out there going, I really need to find myself somebody who looks at me like Sam looks at Sparks. There we go. And who talks about me as Sam talks about Sparks. No, look, it has been a pleasure. Listeners, we hope you've enjoyed it. We are obviously in the build up to Christmas now, so I hope you all have a really, really enjoyable Christmas. Enjoy the last few days of Podmas. Sam, it has been brilliant to have you. So thank you very much. And I hope you and the family all have a brilliant Christmas.
Same to you, Nicole. Thank you. Thank you, listeners.
Listeners, thank you very much as always. Big thank you to Bedmax for their support of When Nicole Met this year. We have had some incredible guests, some brilliant stories, and I hope you've enjoyed it every single step of the way, because I certainly have as well. And it's been a pleasure to share it with you. So look, we'll be back with more in 2022 on When Nicole Met, but lots more on the podcast still to come before the end of the year. So stay tuned. And if you don't already, then please go and give that subscribe button cheeky little click. We'll be back soon with more. Thanks for listening.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!